Hey, it's Flobo, Boyce, host of New Amsterdam Radio, the crown jewel, if you will, of the New Amsterdam Entertainment Network. But that wasn't always the case. You know, when I first started out this podcast, I had so many questions. How did I get started? How do I distribute my podcast? And frankly, my whole life changed when I found Anchor.fm. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. That's paying the bills, ladies and gentlemen. Anchor.fm. I can't wait for you to launch yours. And when you do, tag a brother. I want to hear it. Let's go.
Welcome, citizens. You're listening to Knew Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creatives. Here, thinkers and doers always have a key to the city. The mayor is in, so office hours start now.
Thanks for joining in this bonus edition of New Amsterdam Radio. Learn more about the podcast over at newamsterdam.com. I say it every week, but I mean it just the same. And we'll be talking with Tim Parmeter in just a second. Just want to say thank you so much for making this show that much better, that much bigger, and that much bolder over the past couple of years. That's right. We're on year 2, rolling into year 3. And I, for one, can't be more excited. Go back, check out some of the old shows if you have a chance. And if you want to unlock bonus interviews or show notes or even more good content, become a member of the Boisterous crew. That's what we're calling our Patreon. Patreon.com/FloboBoyce. That's me, my name. Patreon.com/FLOBOBOYCE. That's me. Well, without further ado, let's roll on with my very special guest on this bonus edition of New Amsterdam Radio. Welcome back to New Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creatives. It is I, the mayor, Flobo Boyce, and I'm in the mayor's office, just hanging and chilling with the shakers, movers, and doers in this city for creatives. You know, I like to watch podcasts. That's right, I watch them. I actually look at their little page numbers on their website and listen to the shows because all about the theme, all about what they're talking about, all about the idea. But this podcast was interesting. The visual side of it, the text side of it, the knowledge side of it, I was impressed all different ways from Sunday. The podcast is called Franchising 101, about taking a new approach to business and business ownership, if I could do say so myself. And my guest today, Mr. Tim Parmeter, will talk to us all about it because I, for one, had to hit him up and was like, be on my show because let's talk about what that means. Now, Tim, let me ask you a question. First of all, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. First and foremost.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a question about Franchising 101 because a lot of us are trying to figure out what hustling is in 2020 and 2021 and 2022. But your podcast takes a look at franchising as a route to that, a route to your own personal growth.
Correct. Yes. And again, hey, and thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to talk to you. So yeah, no, it is. And it's, I come from, I've had the Frank Coach business for about 6 years now, a little over. But my kind of way back former life, I was a teacher. I was a coach. I was an athlete. And so my brain works like a teacher and a coach. So when I was in college, and again, especially as an athlete, I didn't start in the 101 classes. I needed all the remedial stuff, right? So we're skipping the remedial. We're assuming everybody's ready for that 100 level stuff. But that's still the very beginning. And that's the whole focus of our business model is to help people learn about franchising in general. What's it all about? Most people hear franchising and think McDonald's or millions and millions of dollars. And yes, those two things connect, but the rest of the industry is like this, again, kind of this underground phenomenon that people don't know about that's really much more accessible. And so our job is to kind of help educate them on that. And again, for some, make it really their new reality and be able to take control of their life. So that's really kind of how it all came about. And really the business model, but the name, just that Franchising 101 is let's educate you up a little bit on what it's all about.
And your podcast is linked to your business Frank Coach, correct?
Yes, sir.
So I got to ask a question Because there's so many ways that a business can get their name out there and raise a profile. But why a podcast? Because it's very easy to throw up a couple billboards, a couple bus chairs, and call it a day. But it seems like with your show, you're really trying to break these giant, like, monolith of, like, having your own franchise opportunity into smaller chunks for people. Why did you decide to use a podcast to do that?
Well, I think a few reasons. And first, I mean, it only took me having that on my to-do list for a year and a half or 2 years before I actually did it. So I'm really quick to the punch on these things, right?
Yeah, you are.
but again, a few things is we're using some of it to just even help the clients that we're working with through the process, because almost everybody we talk to, they're scared to death, man. This is their first time for a lot of them looking at something business ownership, and it feels scary and risky and out of their reach.
Yeah.
So each little step along the way, I've used these podcasts as a way to, I think we're all lazy. We don't want to read anymore. So if you can talk to me, right, or I can do that, that's easier to digest. And so we kind of did it from that standpoint. And then I go back to, I mean, this is kind of dating myself, but and I read the book, but then the movie Moneyball.
Oh yes,
you're Mets guy, right?
Yeah, let's go Mets, baby.
And it was, for those that don't know, originally early 2000s Oakland A's, right? Small market. And they were kind of the zig when everybody else is zagging, right? In the market inefficiencies. And in franchising, there's social media, there's SEO, there's pay-per-click, right? There's email marketing. Nobody was really doing this. Right. Yeah. And so it was also from one to help our people that we're working with, but from a lead gen and awareness standpoint, this isn't out there. Right. So and it's been just a huge kind of boon for our business of getting the awareness out there, but then also really being able to help the people that we're already working with.
So walk me through this, because you have your normal business operations and you have like your staff and your process and all that. But for a minute there, the podcast had to have been an extracurricular activity, right? Like, when did you decide to make the jump? Like, when did you decide, okay, I've researched all I can, I've been nudged by everyone. Today is a day. Finally, I'm going to start in episode 1.
Yeah, and it was, let's be honest, a little lockdown-esque this summer, fair, right?
Fair.
From that standpoint, and I just in my mind, I'm an old man, right? I'm 51, man. Like some of the technology stuff, I just thought it was too hard to do. And our marketing manager for Frank Coach, I think she finally got sick of me, and she gave me the link, right? She set it up on anchor.com, right? And we did it that way. And what's funny is I actually did, beginning of the lockdown, I've got a 7-year-old. We did a Logan and Dad podcast.
Oh, cool.
We did a couple episodes just to try it out. And when I realized that all I had to do was press a button and start talking, and I don't have a problem talking, as maybe you've already started to find out, that it was like, it was kind of one of those, like, why didn't I do this sooner type of thing, right? Absolutely. So it was a little, pestering by an employee, and then honestly just having a little fun doing it with my 7-year-old, and then next thing I know, I'm like, this is easy, let's go.
It's funny because a lot of people are saying now, or I guess I've been told, that there's too many podcasts out there. And actually the numbers say there's more podcasts out there than there are human beings in the United States. But I will say that if it's entertaining or cool to present, like, I wouldn't listen to Logan and Dad, but that's a cool idea for a show. Why the heck not? How has feedback been?
It has been better than I thought, or really kind of even imagined. And there's been, maybe early on, maybe 10 episodes in, and we had a call just magically booked on my calendar, and I'm looking through all of our lead sources trying to figure out where this person came from. And then I get on the phone, and I'm like, dude, how did we connect? And he's like, oh, I listened to your podcast. Yeah. And I'm like, this is the greatest day. The heck with the birth of my kid, the Cubs winning the World Series. Right? It was that. Yeah. And he had found it, and I think it was Spotify. He had found it there, and he's like, yeah, I listened to every episode. And he just about 3 or 4 weeks ago signed a franchise agreement, and he's off with his new business. And that's how, and he'd made the comment, is like, I was thinking about this, and he goes, I listen to podcasts all the time, and then it's been really helpful for folks that we're working with, and they've ran across one of the episodes that has kind of touched them. The irony is that I'm not a podcast listener, and so that was part of the thing for me, is like, well, I don't listen to it. Somehow that meant nobody else in the world listened to podcasts, and since I've done this, I'm like, oh, okay. And so now, I mean, just in the car, and I'll download some, and you know, hey, let's be honest, I'm a Knew Amsterdam follower, right? And just and from this, it's amazing what all is out there, and whatever your interest or curiosity is, there's something for you out there, and it's just an easy way to digest the information and learn something new.
I do think it was a masterstroke. You're calling it franchising 101, because that's definitely a high level search term. You know, if I wanted to start this idea and I don't know where to start, you put 101 or franchising, and then it pops up. And I wish I thought about that if I ever had my own business podcast. But starting it and launching it is two different things, right? So you started it, you launched it, people are coming up to love to you, but like, it can't be all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, there had to be some challenges you had to overcome, whether topic generation or guests. Like, what has been like the most challenging aspect of starting it?
The topic piece, I think, and then making myself just literally sit down and do it, right? If it's not, if things aren't on my calendar, if they don't get done, and this isn't something that I regularly, sometimes I do, but not always, schedule to record them. And so that's been one. And then just, I think, because I didn't know what was going to come of it, now really getting better at promoting it, you know, that type of stuff. And honestly, probably still not very good at it, but you know, when you start something and just kind of on a whim and don't know what's going to happen, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, hey, we might be onto something here. You know, now the topic things keep coming, they kind of come in spurts, but it's just focusing now on, you know, helping get it out there so more people can tap into it.
Yeah, and the clients that have hit you up, are those people lurkers, or people are kind of like, oh, I've been listening for a while, I decided to make a jump, when they try to figure out their own ideas, how has your show warmed your leads, I guess? Let's just put all the cards on the table. How have they helped your clients get to know you as a person and as a business, so they can like work with you in the future?
So I think two ways. Is number one, it's brought us new leads that we wouldn't have had before, just from them, it being on their mind. Because I think a good chunk of the folks we work with, you probably put them in a 40 to 55-year-old age range, that they've been working for the man, right? They're directors and the VPs, so they're really smart, successful people. But you just get to a point where, like, come on, man, there's got to be a better way than that grind day in, day out. And weirdly, the pandemic, I think, has helped a bit from a standpoint of people started working remotely. And now they got a little bit more control, because, you know, the commute to the office, well, we had to do that because that was always the way you did it. Well, that's a dumb reason to do anything, right? So once they got a little bit more control, for the ones that were still working, not to mention, you know, how many millions got let go, I think that's kind of helped bring this into the forefront, right? So from that standpoint, and then the people that we were already working with and taking through our process, from first conversation with somebody until they're signing a franchise agreement, it may be 3 months. So we're working together a long time. Mm-hmm. And the amount of people that have, you know, we've sent them one episode of a podcast based on wherever they are, and then you come back and like, yeah, I listened to all of them. I'm like, man, you're bored, right? And they're like, no, we got going with one, and it's again, just it's their interest, it's where they want to go in life. Yeah. So they've really kind of grasped it. So it's been, again, I mean, it's been blown me away how much positive feedback everything has been from it so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's funny how when we create in a void, we go, well, there goes nothing, because there's so much things. Like, I mean, a generation ago, there was 3 TV channels, and everything that was TV show was in those channels, right? I remember those days when TVs had rabbit ears.
Yep, me too.
But now everything is all like fractured, and you don't really know what's a hit anymore. But when someone says, we went through all the clutter, and we found your show, your post, your business, and we decided to work with you because you are consistent. The quality is great. Then that's like the best feeling in the world. That gives you the battery to make more. If I might be so bold, and
it does.
Yeah, and I am a follower of your podcast, and I do like the fact it does. It's not too long. I think it's very, very important to say it's not too long. You're not there for 2 hours. You're never condescending. You're never like, look here, you loser. This is how you do it. No, you really like walk us through in case I want to go down that path. Because I'll be honest with you, I worked for the man for about 15 years in corporate America because my parents are immigrants. It was told you get a good job, job, and that's what you do. And the man is the lamest man ever, and I wanted out. But at the time, this is like the mid 2000s, mid aughts or late aughts. There was just so much clutter out there. These sites had, talk about liquid capital, or your group, or solo, or like whatever you needed. And it just seemed to be too much. So now I love the fact we live in this post-information age. You could just look up something and just warm yourself up to a beacon of knowledge before saying, this guy or this gal knows her stuff.
Right. Well, and I think you touched on something that's really relevant for us, right? So the information age, right? Good old Google, right? Whatever we want, it's there. How do I find the best ... right? Whether it's restaurant to eat, I want tickets to go see the Mets and the Cubs. I want to find a date for Friday night, right? It's all right there, right? But with franchising, how to find the best franchise is completely different. It's not a search, right? It's not a, hey, I've always worked in industry X, therefore my franchise needs to be in industry X. In fact, most people we work with, they start a franchise in an industry they have little to no experience in. Because
really?
It doesn't matter, because here's the thing, franchise owners aren't the doer. So you could be the biggest slob on the planet and own a cleaning franchise. Okay? Now,
yes,
we don't
recommend for me, man.
we don't recommend that, but because you're not the doer. And so again, and the difference between, you just use cleaning as an example, right? Because it's and I use it a lot because let's be honest, it's not the sexiest business out there. Right.
You also want to be kind to me and not say I should own a gym because that's the same opposite.
But own a gym and have all the donuts you want, brother. It's fine. It's all good. But you can do that. But the search is, how do you know the difference between, we work with, example I use, we work with 3 franchises, and altogether almost 600 franchises we're partnered with in about 60 industries. So give you the idea of the range.
Yeah.
So there's 3 of them that literally have the word handyman in the name of the franchise. So come on, we're neither of us, we're not the smartest dudes in the world, but we can figure out what those franchises do with the name handyman, right? Correct. They are vastly different from one another behind the scenes, what they're looking for in an owner, sales, marketing, support, culture, vastly different. Not to mention that might not even be the right fit for somebody. So it's really, the process is very reversed for how you do this. It's not just the search. So again, it's also where we kind of come in from an education standpoint. I'm like, this is different than everything else you've looked for in your entire life. You got to first be open to the fact that this is completely different than anything you've ever done in your entire life. And that can be a little scary for folks. But again, it just kind of goes back to that, again, that search, we have all this information, but from a franchise perspective, none of that information is really going to help you figure out what your best path is.
Well, here's a question. Maybe it's a little inside baseball. If I'm a franchisor, do I sign like an exclusive distribution with you, a Fran Coach, to find franchisees, or is it kind of a non-exclusive deal? Like, where does your company work on the other side?
So we have the partnerships with all the franchises, but I would say like we work for the individuals, right? So if you're our client, I'm like your agent, right? So I work for you. You don't pay us anything, so there's never any fee for our service, which is enticing for people. Wait, it's free, and then you know what's coming next. Wait, how's it free? How do you get paid? Because let's be honest, we like getting paid too, right? But we're kind of that recruiter or placement firm, right? So if you start a franchise with franchise X, then franchise X pays us, right? It's kind of how that works. So for all the folks we're working with, it gives them the peace of mind of, hey, all I'm really out at the beginning is just a little time to see if this might be their path to, be able to use their creativity and take control over their life with a new business.
Okay, yeah, great. That's kind of the best, I guess, advocate. I'm not sure that's a legal term, but definitely someone that's working on behalf of the little guys when it comes to making their thing. I got to ask a little bit of a personal question. I'm just curious now because you mentioned it a couple times. You're a Cubs fan, which, hey, no one's perfect, but
I know.
Are you from the time where you had an American League team too before in league play? Did you root for an American League team too? Because I had two growing up as a Mets fan.
No, and you mentioned the rabbit ears thing. I grew up in Indiana, so I was worked by WGN back in the day when basically every game was on. Right, you get home from school and turn on the Cubs game, and there would be some White Sox games on then, so you'd watch some of those. But I was brainwashed from a very early age, and I don't know it was anything other than just my mom turning on the TV so she didn't have to deal with me or something, right? As a kid, and being a sports guy, I just kind of hung in there.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I was a Mets fan. You can't take that away from me. But, like, the day before in league play, a lot of the out-of-market stuff from Chicago was White Sox games. So I wanted to be Frank Thomas when I was a kid. That's probably dating myself when it comes to that. And I kind of miss the fact that baseball used to be, like, the pastime. Now football has kind of supplanted that, but that's just my personal thing. Totally off topic.
Because there's no way you could be a Yankees fan and a Mets fan, right?
No, and it's funny you say that. There was a politician, I won't name her name, when she came to New York, they asked her what team she was rooting for, and she was like, I don't care, I'll pick either one. And I was like, ooh, she's not getting my vote. like Mayor Giuliani, when he was mayor, he picked the side. It was the wrong side. He picked the Yankees, but he picked a side. Right. You know what I mean? It's very distinct.
I was gonna say, which is worse, picking the other team or not picking anybody? Right?
Yeah, I can't trust anyone to pick a side, man. I don't know. It's like my favorite pizza in Chicago. You know what I mean? Like, it depends. Yeah. Are you Illuminati's guy? Who knows? Illuminati's guy. I actually went to Chicago. It's a cool town. I love it. It was one of my favorite towns to visit. It was cold though. So 2021 is the fallout so far of 2020. It changed the world. You mentioned the pandemic really flattened the on ramp to doing things because people are doing what we're doing right now. We're connecting through the internet and all that stuff. But now your podcast is running. Your business seems to be exposed to new clientele. What does 2021 look like for Fan Coach?
Well, based on already however many days we've had, busy. So, and I think there's kind of the wave of the last 9 months of 2020. Everybody froze. Everybody didn't know basically what the hell was going on and what was going to happen, and got a little scared. And then as time kind of wore on, and I think that dried up for everybody, right? Because whether you're working and you're readjusting to what the new normal was, remote, and you got kids that are around, next thing you know, you're trying to learn, you're trying to learn algebra again to teach your kid, whatever that might be. There was a lot, and then I think as people got settled the last half of the year, never been busier the last probably 4 or 5 months of 2020, and kind of rolling into this, because I think everybody's kind of like caught their breath. Okay, this is what it is, and then so many more people now going, all right, this is the kick in the butt. I needed to, and you talk about this, right? Use your creativity. How can you take control and have a business, do something of your own? You've done it, right? And so that's where I think for us and just franchising in general, it's really on the rise from that. And again, people our age, right? Or you said it perfectly. It's like we grow up. Our parents said, go to college, get a degree, go get a job, work there, retire, get your gold watch and your pension. Well, that's a bunch of crap. That doesn't happen anymore, right? And especially with the pandemic, it's really, I think, put a new emphasis on, hey, look, maybe I kind of like my family and like seeing them a little bit more, right? Maybe not always, but I think it's just brought a new appreciation. I think there are positives that we can take from last year. Not a lot, but there are some, and that control over time, family, and really kind of planning the future that you're in charge of versus realize we're waiting to see what happens somewhere else. So from that standpoint, I think it's going to be the last, again, 4 or 5 months of 2020 rolling into this year. I think it's going to just continue to boom for us.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, the analogy I use with my sports friend is like 2020 was kind of like Formula One in a way. You know, there was a giant crash, and now we're in the safety car lap. And yes, you don't want to see a crash, but like the slowing it down, you know, some things worked out for me. You know, some things worked out in a good way. It's okay to have a little bit of survivor's remorse, you know, but with 2021, now's a chance to see how the field opens up. And my final question today, man, if someone's watching or listening to this, more likely listening, if they're listening to this and they are their own business owner and they're thinking about launching a podcast to fuel their business, or maybe they're thinking about franchising, like any advice for either one of those two demographics right now?
Quit thinking about it and do it. Right. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of this. I actually coined the phrase "just do it," and then Nike stole it from me.
That's going to be in the VH1, like, put you behind the Hollywood story. It was my idea, Nike.
They stole it from me. How dare them? I mean, I was 10 at the time, but I'm sure it was my idea. But no, it really is, because, I mean, I sat on the thing and was scared to do it. And again, maybe in some ways we want to tell everybody how hard it is to do a podcast, but it's really not, right? Sure. And to be able to do that. But I think that's the thing. It's really just quit thinking about it. Get out of your own head. If it's something you want to do it. If you want it to be a podcast, if it's, hey, first of the year and you want to get in better shape, get off your butt, man. Go do it. Whatever that is. And same thing for business ownership. Could it fail? Could it not work out? Yeah, but and from my standpoint with the podcast is I didn't know what to expect. And what if it doesn't work? What if it stinks? All of these things, and we'll just start it, and then like, oh, this isn't so bad. And then now you see the way it's positively affected people, and it's cheesy, it's cliche, but even if it helps one person, right? Yeah. You've now made a difference, and that's the thing. We have the capability to do it, and yeah, there's always a little risk, but come on, man. I think if anything last 2020 has taught us is don't wait around for stuff. Just go do it, man. Go get it. Don't wait around. Go make yourself as happy as you can be.
And I wish that Nike sent you that big royalty check, man, because they made some killing off of that phrase. Just do it.
I'll just be happy with a pair of shoes, man. I'm not too greedy.
Oh, the Air franchise. I love it. Tim, thank you so much for being on the show. Here's a chance you promote anything you want. Put yourself over. If anyone want to connect with you on social media or book a time with you, how would they go about doing that?
Oh, and thank you so much for having us on. So our website, francoach.net. And then the Franchising 101 podcast, which wherever you listen to your podcast, wherever you check out Knew Amsterdam Radio, check out Franchising 101 as well. So we'd love to chat. There's never any fee for our service. And we always just say, hey, take that first step today, and maybe it's going to be able to help create your better tomorrow. So thanks again, man. This has been awesome.
Thanks so much for listening to Knew Amsterdam Radio. Learn more about the show at knewamsterdam.com. That's KNEW Amsterdam.com. Until next time, this city is yours.